Awesome, amazing. I'm so happy you can all hear me okay and see my shared screen. Thank you guys so much for being here. So before we get started, first of all, hi, my name is Yehuda. I'm a customer experience advocate here at monday.com. Today we're going to be going over some of the December 2020 new features in this webinar. And I'm really excited to actually show you some of these amazing new features and improvements that have been added to our platform in the past month or so. So before we start, I'd love to actually hear about some of your backgrounds. So if you don't mind, can you write in the chat box where you're from and from what industry? Awesome, amazing. I see we have people from Chicago, Florida, people in education, Chile, that's awesome, USA, automotives, gaming. Wow, amazing. It's amazing to see people from all around the world joining us today. I really appreciate you all being here. It really is amazing. So many people from so many different backgrounds and places. Awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. Great. So today we'll be going over some of the following features. So we'll actually be starting off with account navigation. We'll show you today how to pin and unpin workspaces and also introduce you to the improved bolt switch as well. We'll be going over some of the column settings updates as well on your boards, how to filter by column menu, also the numbers column settings as well. We'll also show you the board improvements too, like the item height and the new holiday done animation as well. We'll also show you the timeline summary bar and also the color by dropdown option that we just added, the ability to hide weekends, and subitems export from your board as well. We'll also show you some of the dashboard improvements too, like the goal widget app and holiday llamas, really. And also I'll show you too how to delete a folder with content inside of it. We'll also cover briefly the search everything, the improvements there as well. We'll cover our custom recipes and we'll introduce you to some of the multiple actions that we just added and also the ability to add sub-items. And lastly, we'll leave about 20 minutes for a Q&A. Great. So please do make sure to leave any questions that you have throughout the webinar in the Q&A box rather than in the chat. We have a couple of my teammates joining me today, Danny and Mary, and they will be answering your questions throughout the webinar in the Q&A box. We'll also have some time, as I mentioned, to answer some at the end as well. So as always, you will receive a recording of this webinar automatically in the coming days as well. Great. So let me just exit out of here and swing over to my monday.com account. Awesome. Great, so welcome to my monday.com account. The first feature I want to show you is an improvement to the workspaces. As you may or may not know, workspaces are a great way to organize your account. We understood that the pains of having many different departments and teams using one platform. Everything can become messy and confusing as the teams and workloads grow. With that in mind, we created workspaces. So workspaces essentially help your organization better manage multiple departments, teams, and projects in one unified place. They provide your account with a hierarchy of organization, allowing you to keep everything orderly as you seamlessly scale your account. With so much going on around you, you can now stay focused on what's relevant to you, while at the same time easily navigate across teams, departments, or projects. If you haven't already added some workspaces to your account, I'd really recommend doing so. You can add workspaces by clicking on the three dots menu on the workspaces left pane over here. And you can just click here to add a new workspace. Great, so to now take this amazing feature one step further, we recently made a few changes to how you can navigate the different workspaces on your account to help simplify and prioritize what you work on when you need it. So to kick off our first new feature, I want to start off by introducing our shiny new pin and unpin feature, where you can now easily add or remove workspaces to and from the workspace surface. Great. I actually already see that we have people putting questions in the chat. If you don't mind just putting those in the Q&A, that'd be really awesome. So this way we can get to them in just a bit. Great. So for the pin and unpin workspaces. So over here, as we already clicked into our three dots menu, what you can actually now do is hover over pin workspaces, and you can see over here, like really just pop up. You can see all the different workspaces that you can go and pin and unpin. And as you can see in the background, you'll see they're already being added and being removed as I check them off. Awesome, it's really that easy and that convenient. So this definitely helps reduce clutter and is a nice way to tidy up your account so you can prioritize what you need at any given moment. So with making the navigation process easier, we've also just redesigned our bolt switch to make it more usable and accessible. For those of you who know the bolt switch, it hasn't changed dramatically, But now you can easily navigate across your different boards, dashboards, and now workspaces as well. This is especially great if you have many workspaces and want to quickly access and toggle between them. It's definitely quite a time saver. We also just moved the bolt switch to the top right-hand side over here, just above the workspaces, making it much more visible and accessible. However, you can still use a shortcut to access it, which I personally love and find super useful. For those who don't know, the shortcut to the bolt switch is actually on your keyboard, so you can just select Command B, or on a Mac, or Control B on a PC. Great, so let's now navigate to my workspace. So if I just scroll down, I can already see the workspace that I want and that I need. Great, so over here I have some of the boards that I will be using to demonstrate throughout this walkthrough. So for this, I actually do want to show you our first feature, which actually takes place on my social media schedule board. Great, so for the first update on this board, I want to actually show you the most recent update that we made to the file column, the actual ability to preview the file that you have within the column. So for those of you who are not familiar with our file column, this column lets you add files directly onto your board surface from within the column itself. Now, with the new improvement, we have taken how you preview your files one step further. Until now, when clicking the video file from your file column, you would see a really big icon with the extension, where you would then have to download it and only then proceed to watch it on your computer. Well, not anymore. Now you can preview your files after clicking on them. So you can simply click on your audio and video file, like so, and from within the pop-up, and then view the attachment without having to download it. So just like this, but previously you'd actually have to download it and then open it and then only then be able to view it. Now you can just do it from the pop-up itself. It's really that easy. And as you can see, my video is playing in the background. Awesome. Great, amazing. So now that we got a glimpse into the newest file column updates, I want to shift focus to show you a sneak peek into a huge feature, which is still actually in beta phase. So for this, I'll go to my sales funnel board to show you this feature. So this board, which we will cover more about later on in this webinar at least, this is where I have my incoming leads for my sales team. Each item is the lead client organization's name. I have several columns where I input relevant information about each client, including a few status columns. The account segment column, as you can see over here, this will tell me which segment they are from. So I can then, depending on which segment they're from, I can assign the appropriate account managers responsible for that segment. So I also have a few other columns to know what phase they are in as well, and if they have signed them onto a contract, like over here. And here we'll be able to see as well if they're eligible for a customer success manager. The details about my workflow on this board will become more relevant later on in the webinar though. I do want to say at this point that the use case is only for demonstration purposes. And of course, everything that I'm showing you can really just be added and customized to your own boards and workflows. It really is just that customizable. Great, so let's look at our next feature, which is actually going to be a sneak peek into the new board filter. As you can see, this board has a lot of information on it, so I may want to be able to filter the information to see only what is relevant at that given moment. For those of you who have never seen this sort of filter over here, not to worry, I'll explain exactly how you can add it to your account shortly. Some of you may already be familiar with the new conditional filter, but for those who are not, you will see that I can now filter by applying rules using different columns or groups on the board. So if I want to see what clients are from, say, the regional segment over here, and which ones are customer success eligible, I could then use the filter over here, the conditions in this filter over here, and then I can proceed to add really what I want to filter. So over here, as you can see, I want to filter by, let's say, account segment is, let's say, regional. And then here we can add another condition. So previously this would only be and, but now you can actually have the or option as well. So this is actually really new and really takes the filtering capabilities to another level, as you can choose to see things which are either present in one column or in another, according to the conditions that you've set. So if I add or, I can add for the account segment is regional. And for example, I could just add another one as well for, say, a different region too. And then we can go ahead and clear those values. Great, let me just take a quick sip of water. Awesome, great. So while we're talking about the conditional filter, let's take a look at something else about the filter that's new too. So we've also just added the ability to access the filter from your board directly from the columns dropdown settings. Just like so. So this filter option now scrolls up to the filter dialog, opens it, and adds a rule with the selected column. This makes it easier to directly access the filter and apply the rules that you need when you need them. So we'll go ahead and we'll hover over filter. And as you can see, it already rolls up to the conditional filter, and it already for me added what column I want to filter by. And I can continue to also add the other conditions too. Great, so I can go ahead and I can select the drop-down settings from within this filter. It will then be automatically added like we just saw. It'll add the column that I selected. And then I can proceed to add more columns and edit the fields that I need to focus on. And from there, I can also save it as its own view, so I can always refer back to this filter later on. So since we released a new filter into beta, we received a lot of feedback that many users were missing the horizontal filter, the old original filter that some of you may be familiar with. So the filter is now actually a combination of the horizontal filter as well. This may be the filter that you've all come to know and love. So it's definitely something very familiar and something exciting that hopefully you'll be used to. So if you take a look over here, I can just click on the filter icon and you can see the horizontal filter pops up. This you may already be kind of familiar with. So as I mentioned, this filter is also in beta. Therefore, if you don't have this filter, you can add it for yourself on a user level from within Monday Labs to access our beta features. Great. So just again, you can access the filter from within the column to add these columns to the filter like we just saw. And also from here as well, you have the same kind of conditional filter. And on top of that, you now have the horizontal filter here. Amazing. So the next feature I want to now show is also in the column settings. But for this, let's move over to our numbers column over here. Great, so this is my account revenue. I want to know exactly how much revenue each account is going to be bringing in. So for right now, as we may have seen previously, in order to edit this column, we'd actually have to access the settings through the column summary. But now we've added the option to access this through the numbers column drop-down settings as well, making it much more intuitive when you're looking to customize your numbers column. So if I go to the drop-down settings, I have column settings, and I have already the option to add the different conditions to my numbers. So I want it to be in dollars, so I can add that. And also I can choose if it's left or right too. So this just makes it a bit more intuitive, especially once you're adding columns to your board and you want to make it more intuitive for users on your account. So it really is that much easier and that much more accessible. Great. Awesome. So the next feature that I want to introduce you to is simple, but actually quite an exciting one. So let's move over to our client database to show you this one over here. This is where I have different clients that I'm running active campaigns for. So as you can see already, I have a list of clients and their information. You'll notice that some clients have longer text in their names or in their campaign summary column, which is a long text column over here. So as the manager, I want to be able to see this all at a quick glance, rather than having to hover over each item to see its information. So to help with that, we now have actually the ability to adjust your item's height. This amazing new feature allows you to change the height of a board's item from single, which is the default size, to double and to even triple the size. So this is great, especially if you have boards with long items and long text column fields as we have over here. So instead of having to hover over the item's name or the text column, you can now see more text from the get-go. So let's just go ahead and show you how to do that. Select item height, and you have double, and we even have triple as well. So that's awesome. You can see all of your information right away from the get-go. That's awesome. I'm really happy to see some of you in the chat box are already enjoying that. It really is an exciting feature, that's for sure. Great. So to continue on the same board for the next feature, next in line is actually a feature that we added to spice things up and get everyone in the spirit of the holidays. I want to show you our updated holiday animation done status label. That's right. So now you'll see a random holiday animation every time you change your status to done. Just like that. Amazing. So this is a great way to keep your team's spirit quite festive. So every time you change a status label to done, you'll get a nice little animation in the background for the holidays. So if you don't have this yet, and if you want to add it or even remove it, you could just navigate to the Monday Labs that we saw earlier. to the Monday Labs for the beta features in your account, and you can actually go ahead and you can disable it from here at the bottom. Great. Okay, awesome. So for the next part, so this really concludes our most recent updates to the board's columns. Now I want to show you our new timeline summary bar. So for this use case, I want to move over to my marketing campaigns board where I keep track of all my running campaigns. So we'll go over to our marketing campaigns board. So first, for those of you who didn't get the chance to use it yet, the timeline column gives you a visual representation of how long you or your team has to complete an item or project. You can use the column to display a timeline for any item or the total for a group of items. You can also use a timeline view to get a visual overview of all of your tasks together. So now to provide more visual data when viewing the timeline and to give you a higher level overview of your entire range of dates in a group, we created the timeline summary bar. So let's go to our timeline view to see this. Awesome. So to demonstrate this, I already have my timeline settings organized by groups, which I've made sure to select in the timeline views settings that I'll just open up quickly right now. So I have it grouped by groups. Great. And so I also want to be able to see the progress of my overall tasks. In addition to that, not just by group, but I also want to see by the status's progress too. So by the status column rather. So as you can see, it's already colored by the campaign status. And so this one is done, this one is stuck. And if we go back to the board, you'll see that's how it looks as well. Great. Just one moment. Okay, so because I just want to see an overview of my task's progress, so I'll zoom out to view everything by quarter. And now, as you can see in the background, I already have this neat little summary bar to easily visualize the range of the timeline dates for each group. This is super useful, especially if you have all of your groups collapsed. So let me just collapse my groups that are split up by quarters. And so if you have many different groups, you can see a whole list of them. And instead of having to see all of the different individual timeline ranges, you can see a nice little summary thanks to this new summary bar. Great. Let me just expand this once more for the next feature. Okay, so let's swing over to our timeline settings once again to show you the timeline color options like we saw earlier. So up until now, the colors of the items in the timeline view were dependent solely on the color of their group. So you couldn't really customize it too much. Well, not anymore. With a new addition to this view, you can now choose to color your items by anything inside the timeline view, by groups, status labels, people's column, and now the dropdown column. So let me just change that to the dropdown column. So if I'm managing my campaigns, let me just put this in split view so you can see what that looks like. So this is a drop-down column, and now I can color it by the conditions in this column. So if I'm managing my campaigns and I want to see them based on what platforms they're running on, like I have in this column over here, and I'm using the drop-down column to label them, I can now go into the settings like we just did over here and change the items so that they are colored by the drop-down column fields. Of course, you can always go back into the settings to customize and make changes to this as well. Great, so lastly, I want to add one last feature that we just updated in the timeline view settings. We now have the ability in the settings to show and hide weekends on the view level. So in my settings, once again, I can select the option to include in the timeline view, the option to show or even to hide weekends. So let me just remove the split view just to make it a bit more visual. Great, so over here, we have show weekends, and you can already see in the background, my dates only include weekdays. So you can see only what days actually matter for your tasks timeline. What's also great about this new addition is that the UI change only affects your timeline on the view level. However, from the account settings, the admin can also select this to be the default setting across the entire account. There's a link here that the admin could actually access directly. So the admin can also choose from there as well what is considered weekdays for your team. And they can also adjust the first day of the week and also the option to include from on an account basis at least, what is considered as weekends. Great, so let's go back to my board. Amazing, so that does it for the timeline updates. Let me just swing over back to my board. Awesome. So the last update to our boards that I want to show you was a highly requested feature. So I'm happy to be able to share with you today that we have updated how to export your boards with subitems. For this, I'll swing over to my team tasks board, where I have items representing my team's tasks and subitems to represent their subtasks. Let me just expand this so you can see the subitems and to make it a bit more visual. So as some of you may know, subitems is one of our newer features that we have been constantly updating and expanding their capabilities. So the latest update we made is how subitems are exported to Excel. Now when exporting your board's data, the subitems appear in your exported spreadsheet exactly how they would appear on your board. This can be great for data manipulation and if you're looking to present the information externally. However, the possibilities are really endless. Let's go over to our board's three dots menu at the top and export our board with its subitems. So just go over here and we'll export our board. Let's just include subitems. Great, so as it's loading, just give it a moment and click on that. Just a second, let me just take a sip of water while we're waiting. Okay, so it looks like that didn't upload just yet. So we'll actually go back to that in just a moment just to show you what it looks like. Oh, actually, there it is. So let me just see if I could pop that over. It's kind of tricky with this shared screen over here. So hopefully you can see this. My Excel doc over here, is kind of tricky with the shared screen over here, but if you can see it, you can see that my items and my subitems are exactly one underneath the other, which is actually really super useful and helpful. Great, I can see some people can already see it, and you can already see how awesome this could be. I know people that are a bit more Excel savvy are able to manipulate the data much more easier this way. So that's really awesome. Great. Yeah, Will Smith works with me. Exactly. Great, so this concludes our latest board updates. The next updates that I want to show you takes place in the dashboards. So as you may already know, dashboards are a great way to report and get a sense of what's happening across multiple boards. With its different widgets and apps, it's a great way to track project progress, budget, estimate your team's workload, and much more. It helps you keep your team focused and motivated on the high-level goals and boost productivity. Let me actually just swing over here to give you more of that so you can see this up close. Great. So, but what if you're actually saving up for a big project or running an important fundraiser or even trying to stay within a budget? You can now keep your eye on your ultimate goal with the Goal Widget app. Before we dive into that, I do want to mention that you may already have heard of our Monday Apps Marketplace, but in case you haven't, our Apps Marketplace really expands the functionality of the platform. With just a few clicks, you can take your workflow to the next level by adding in new apps, which are views, widgets, automations, integrations, or a combination to suit your business needs. So our apps are built by third-party developers, as well as by monday.com, which can be accessed from within the dashboards or the board's views. So whether you need to visualize your data, customize your automations and integration, or improve collaboration within your team, the odds are there's an app for that. And the latest app that we just added directly to the platform is the new Goal widget that we built on the Monday Apps framework. So this is a good opportunity to remind you about the Monday Apps framework on which this widget was built. As you can see already, I have this widget set up, but let me show you how I got there. So you can add the widget by clicking on Edit to edit our dashboard, and then we'll click on Add Widget. Then we'll click on More. Whoops. I actually had the option there to add the apps directly, but actually if you click over here, you can click on apps by monday.com to access some of our apps. Great. So let me go ahead and add the Goal app. There we go. Add widget. And now we automatically have it popped open so we can go ahead and edit. So one thing I want to point out before actually adding this and finishing the implementation process of our dashboard, I do want to mention that the Goal widget is compatible with the numbers column. So before you can use it, you must make sure that you've added a numbers column to your board and filled it with all of your numbers. So I've already added a numbers column to my client database, which this board is connected to. So I can now see in this widget the amount of revenue that I have accumulated towards my total revenue goals. So I only have this connected. So actually, you know what, let me go ahead and connect that right now because I believe I have more than one board created. So Let's just get rid of some of these boards to make it a bit more concise. Okay, great. So now that we have our board added, we'll swing over. Let's collapse this, and then we'll expand the other settings options, and then we'll go ahead and we'll choose which numbers column we're working with on that board. So if I had more boards, you'd see all the boards over here and their numbers column settings too. So let's click on this number column. It looks like we already reached our goal because we had it a bit low over there. So that kind of gave you a sneak peek into what's about to happen. But basically what you can do is you can set your goal target over here. Let me add a bit more numbers. And you can see it's already, whoop, there we go. Sorry, I'm just adding a bunch of random digits over here just to show you how this works. Great, so you can already see in the background that the bar is getting filled up towards my $10 million goal, which is based off of the amount of revenue that we actually have on that board. Okay, back to that. Great, so let's give our goal a name. Let's call it annual, annual revenue. Amazing. Awesome. And then you actually have the option of adding it as a sum of that numbers column or showing the average. So now that we have our numbers column connected in the drop down below, that's pretty much all that you need. So as your team updates the items on your board, you can watch the battery fill up just like we did towards the goal. And you can actually see it being updated in real time, just like we did earlier. So this one over here, which I've pre-added, you can see I'm already this amount towards my goal. Amazing. So as your team goes ahead and they finally smashes those goals, you'll see that celebratory confetti in the background like we saw earlier. Great. So before we move on to the next update, I do want to note that this app is also available as a board view if you want to keep track of it on a board level rather than on a multi-board level in the dashboards. Amazing. Great. So the next update is also in the dashboards. But this one is actually a bit more of a fun one in the spirit of the holidays. So the Llama Farm widget that you all know and love has also had a festival makeover too. To show you what this looks like, I already have this set up where you can already see our llamas over here rejoicing and having a blast. So if you don't know already, the Llama Farm widget takes each task on your board and its status label color and presents it as a dancing llama. Now we've added to the fun by adorning them in winter garb, celebrating and having fun in the winter snow. So if you don't need your llamas to celebrate, that's totally fine too. You can always remove the winter theme in the settings over here. You have the holiday theme dropdown. You could just click on there to hide the theme. Let's just keep it for now. Great. So now that we've covered all the boards and dashboard updates, I want to show you how to now tidy up your account by deleting folders. Great. So previously, in order to delete your boards and dashboards, you would have to do this per individual board or dashboard. Now, if you have a folder that contains multiple boards and dashboards, you can delete them all by simply deleting the whole folder itself. It's super easy to do. So here I have a test folder that I've set up already, and let's go ahead and delete it. And as you can see, the folder was deleted. It's okay, that was just there for testing, so no worries. But in any event, so for right now, all the boards and dashboards within that folder will be archived, and all the dashboards will be deleted. So we're looking to update this so that it will archive the dashboards as well in the future. But if a dashboard is deleted, as some of you may know, you can still go back and sync the boards again to a new dashboard. So finally, I want to show you how you can search for any item across all of your boards. So previously, when using Search Everything, when searching for a word prefix, we would only see item suggestions. Now you can see the search results as well. So now that we're in the Search Everything, I want to type in the name of an item. So let me just type in the name of a client. So as I type in my search, not only does it suggest what I'm looking for over here, the search results also roll up in the background as well as I type it. So this makes it much faster to search for what you need when you need it, even if you can't seem to remember exactly the entire name of that item. Amazing. Awesome. So let's move over onto the coolest part of the webinar. I want to now show you how to take your workflow to the next level with our custom automations builder. Let me just go out of the dashboard, of the Search Everything, just to give you a bit of introduction. Awesome. So I want to now show you how to take your workflow to the next level. So for anyone who doesn't know about monday.com automations, let's start by explaining them very briefly. Automations are probably the most awesome part of the monday.com platform, as they allow you to automate parts of your workflow to remove manual and repetitive tasks, saving you loads of time. As you may or may not already know, this amazing feature allows you to create your own automation flow. So our automations allow you to use an event inside monday.com, like the changing of a status, to trigger an action, like sending a notification. So this is done by using predefined automation flows, which we have created for you to choose from in our automations center. So let me swing over to one of my boards. And as we can see in the automation center over here. Great, so now with the custom automation recipe builder, you can customize and build recipes for yourself, allowing you to create new combinations that are tailored to your team's needs and make them fit to your specific workflow over here. So we just took this feature to the next level by adding the ability to use multiple actions in the custom recipes, which is what I want to show you here today. As we build this, I even have a surprise for you that I think may blow you away. So to demonstrate, I want to focus on my sales funnel board that we just navigated to. This was the board that we were working on earlier. So as you can see in the background, let me just swing back here. So as you can see, my leads come into the incoming leads group over here. So we have here a few columns to categorize these leads and to assign them to their respective account managers. So for this, we have a status column to show the regional segment, which these leads are coming from. We also have a few people columns so that we can assign each lead as a customer success manager and an account manager once the lead account becomes signed and relevant. However, I want to make this process a bit easier and automate which account manager and customer success manager gets assigned based on which regional segment they're in. And we want all of this to happen after we have their contract received, which we'll see in the status column over here, and signed over here as well. Sorry, over here. So basically, once the lead comes in, based on its status, we want that to trigger all the other information that we need to be added. And this is required, and that's required for this lead. So let's move over to our automation center once again on this board to map this automation out. So as you can see over here in our automation center, here are some of the recipes that you may already be familiar with. So we have pre-made automations already available, but for something a bit more intricate and tailored to what I need, I want to actually build this myself. So let's go to the custom recipe section and start to map out our automation. Great, so as you can see, so we have a few steps over here to begin with. So the first step in building your custom automation is to pick a block. Your options are when or every time period to begin. For this example, we'll choose when. So once you choose your first building block, it's time to then pick your trigger. A trigger can involve a column from your board, i.e. a status, person, or a date column, etc., or an action that happens on your board, like an item creation or an item that's moved to a group. In this example, we'll choose status changes as a trigger. So when a lead is signed, it will initiate the actions that follow based on which status is a trigger. So we want to know if their contract is signed. This way, it'll initiate the actions that follow based on that trigger. So up until now, this would be all that we could do with our automation. The status label would trigger, and then the actions that follow are determined based on the automation that I'm using. Now that we have introduced the ability to add multiple actions, the possibilities are now endless. This new feature that we've just added allows me to add multiple actions. So after I've added my conditions here, by adding the and button over here, I can add a few more actions as well. So in addition to this status change, we want to add our conditions. So let's go ahead and map out our entire custom recipe. So we have when contract changes to signed, and let's do status is, and customer success eligible is yes. And let's do status change once more. And status is, account segment is regional, national. Let's choose our action. We'll assign our account manager. So let's assign right now Jim, that you could just search right there. And let's assign, whoop, sorry, give me a moment. Just a minute. Okay, so we have Jim as the account manager, and let's assign our customer success manager. Oh, sorry, let me just edit that one more time. Yeah, Jim, just give him a second, he'll get there. And let's go ahead and assign as well as a customer success manager. Let's assign Pam. Okay, sorry about that. It's just taking a second to load. Of course, while you're presenting it, it's going to take a few moments. Okay, just give it a second. Awesome. Okay, this was actually working super fast earlier. Of course, once you're on Zoom and everything, it's going to take a while to load. Okay, so let's choose our next action. So once we have Jim assigned and Pam assigned, we also want to have this moved as well. We want this lead or this item to move to its respective group. So because this is in the national segment, let's move it to the national partnerships group. And last one, I promise, the last action. And also, what else do we want once this lead is being assigned? We also want to know what the close date is too. So we want to do and set date to close date for our close date column to today. Great. So this is great. We have our custom recipe all ready and set to go. We really have everything that we need to automate this. So now that when a lead comes in and its contract is signed and is eligible for a customer success manager, it will assign the account managers based on which region they're from, and it will also move its item to that group. Now, usually this would end here. But as some of you may know, your items may require more in-depth information that you may want to add. They may require a bit more in-depth in steps or information or other tasks to that, say, one lead or task that you're automating. So you may even want to use subitems to give that context as well, to give that additional layer. So with this in mind, we just added the ability to now add subitems to the custom recipes. This new feature is quite a game changer. Now when my lead comes into this board that we saw and are assigned, we also want a list of subitems to map out on the onboarding process for my customer success managers to follow after being assigned their client. I can now do this by adding the subitems to my custom automation, and with the help of our multiple actions, we can customize a few different fields to our subitems in advance as well. So I do want to note that the subitem column will need to be added to your board prior to building out the custom automation. I already have this added to my board, so we're pretty much all ready to map it out. So as you can see, after selecting the end, to add another action, we just selected the end over there, and then we also have the option over here to create a subitem and map out what fields in the subitem we want to include as well. So let's start adding our subitems. So let's just add this subitem here and customize it. So for some context, say the first action item for that lead. And for those account managers we want them to work on. So let's do for now, opportunity assessment. Okay, and then let's assign our customer success manager to this. If there was a different stakeholder involved, we can add someone else. And Pam is taking a while, sorry about that. Okay, but the idea is pretty much there. You can go ahead and you can update your item or the subitem rather. This way, when it's created with the automation, it'll go ahead and add this context to those tasks. So let's add Jim to the account manager field. And for the status as well, we'll add assigned. Great. Awesome. So that's that. Again, you can go ahead here and add a subitem. I even have the option to add a few more subitems too, not just one. So you could go ahead here. So let's add one more subitem. And then let's add another subitem to add a few more tasks. Awesome. So for right now, let's just work with these two tasks. Okay. All right, so we just named that one. Let's just call this one, let's say, item 1. Sorry about that. Okay, item 1. Again, let's just see if we could quickly assign them. This way we could just get this up and running to show you how this works. Great, so we have that first subitem and the second subitem. Item 2. Let's assign once more. Okay, almost there. Great, awesome. So now we have our sub-items added, and let's go ahead and create this automation. Awesome, so now this is added to my board. And I even have one that I was testing out earlier, so you could just, don't mind that for now. Let's just turn that off. This way we can see how this works. Great. So let's swing over to my board so we can go ahead and trigger this. So let's change this to yes, and let's change this one to signed. Okay, just give it a moment, and it should go ahead there. It looks like things are working just a bit slowly. But of course, like we said earlier, as we were presenting this, it might just take a bit. Okay, let's just try this once more. Hold on, with the pre-automation that I added earlier. Let's turn this one off and this one on. Okay, once more, fingers crossed, let's go ahead and do this. Okay, awesome. I didn't even do anything, and you can already see that they were added to the bottom, and I even had my sub-items added as well. Cool, cool, awesome. So based off of the previous automation that I set up, you can already see that that automated the assigning of the leads, pretty much account managers, and other tasks as well. Great, awesome. So in addition to this, I can always go back and change the fields that I've mapped out to this automation. I can always save it as a template as well. If I need to create the same automation for a few different use cases, and I can also go ahead and name it as well. So let me go ahead back into my automation center to show you what that looks like. And over here, we have our custom automation section. And you can already see here that I have some of the custom automations that I was testing out earlier saved as a template. So just once again, go to our automations, click here. Whoop, let's just go back and show you how to save it as a template. Cool, save as template. I already saved mine as a template, so let's just go back there quickly. Okay, and as you can see over here, I have my templates, and I can also name them too. So here I have this, so whenever my team is needing to add, say, an automation for my use case, I can go ahead and name it to give that context that I need. So this one is for national segment, this one is for assigning leads. Let me just do that quickly. I just realized I didn't actually demonstrate this. So over here, when you create the template, you can go ahead and name it too. So just random. Okay. Yeah, the idea is there. Sorry if it didn't load there. It looks like my internet at home is not in tip-top shape. But yeah, basically that's how you can go ahead and name your templates. And you can also just go ahead into the template section that we just saw to add for your different use cases. So for this use case, I had it for the national segment leads coming in. So I can just go ahead and instead of having to map out that whole custom automation that we saw earlier with all its sub-items, I can go ahead and add the same automation with the templates for the, say, regional or for the local segment too. And this way, I can also even go ahead and customize the sub-items for that specific recipe as well. Great. So that's pretty much it for now. Thank you all so much for following along. I know that really was a lot of information. I do want to let you know that you can find all this information in our support center and in our knowledge base articles as well. So you can always find what we've covered. Our support team is always available 24/7. So you can always reach out to support@monday.com if you need anything. Great. So we'll begin our Q&A portion of the webinar in just a moment. So please make sure to leave any last minute questions in the Q&A box, and we'll get started with that in just a second. Thank you.